It was just another internet challenge. Spend 30 minutes in the abandoned house on 77th Street, film everything, and win 500 Brazilian reals. Gustavo, Carol, Diego, and Leticia accepted immediately. Young, brave, and addicted to views, they thought it would be easy. The house was old, surrounded by tall weeds, with windows boarded up with rotten wood. The street was a dead end, unlit and off the digital map. The place seemed to have been forgotten for decades. Gustavo pulled the front door open with force, and it creaked slowly. A smell of mold and rust enveloped them. The air was heavy, as if the house were alive. Still, they entered, laughing and filming with their phones. Inside, furniture covered with sheets, peeling walls, and crooked frames created a macabre atmosphere. In the center of the room, there was a staircase leading to the basement. An inexplicable chill emanated from there. Diego, the jokester, shouted, "If there's any spirit here, show yourself now." At that moment, the front door slammed shut on its own with a bang. The lights on their phones flickered. They laughed nervously. They decided to split up to explore faster. Carol went upstairs while the others stayed on the ground floor. With each step, the sounds of the house changed. Creaks, whispers, breaths that didn't come from any of them. Carol found a locked room. When she pressed her ear against the door, she heard muffled crying. She shouted for her friends, but no one answered. When she looked back, the hallway was dark, and there were no more stairs. Gustavo, down below, searched for the exit, but the front door had vanished. In its place, a smooth concrete wall. "This can't be happening," he whispered. Despair grew. The GPS? No signal. The data? No network. Leticia was staring at a dusty photograph of 4 children, identical to them. Same clothes, same expressions, same date, today. She let out a scream that echoed throughout the house, but no one heard her. Diego, descending to the basement, found an old television turned on, broadcasting a black and white recording. It was them entering the house, but in the recording, they were already dead. The footage showed the group being attacked by something faceless, a formless shadow that moved like living smoke. Suddenly, the TV turned off by itself, and Diego realized he was no longer alone in the basement. Carol tried to break a window, but behind the glass was more wall. No exit, no logic. They were trapped. The house seemed to have warped reality, like a labyrinth with no doors. One by one, they disappeared. First Diego, who screamed as if he had been ripped from reality. Then Leticia, swallowed by a darkness that crawled along the walls. Gustavo ran to Carol, who was trembling in the corner of the room. "It's the house. It wants us here," Carol whispered. Gustavo tried to scream, but his voice wouldn't come out. The air grew thick. The walls began to pulse, and the floor opened up in fiery cracks. In the last moment, Carol looked into the hallway mirror. There they were, standing still, paralyzed. But their reflections were crying, trapped inside the glass. The house had swapped them for empty copies. Today, the house still stands on 77th Street. Those who pass by swear they hear muffled laughter and voices calling for help. But when they enter, they never come out. And the video they recorded? It's still online. And it ends with a phrase written on the mirror, "You are next." Clara and Daniel had been on the road for hours, looking for a place to spend the night. The GPS had stopped working, and in the middle of nowhere, they found an old sign, Motel Encanto, rooms available. The entrance was dark, but they were too exhausted to continue their journey. The receptionist seemed old. Pale skin, awkward smile, eyes too fixed. She handed them the key to room 7 without asking any questions. The silence in the place was sepulchral, as if no one else was staying there. The room smelled of mold, with old furniture and a huge stained mirror covering almost the entire wall in front of the bed. Clara commented, "How strange. It seems to absorb light." Daniel laughed, saying she was just being dramatic. But when he went to the bathroom, Clara sat on the bed, and the mirror seemed to move. A shadow behind her passed like a dark blur, too fast to be real. Startled, she turned around quickly. Nothing. Daniel came out of the bathroom, and she decided not to mention it. Maybe it was just fatigue. They lay down, but Clara couldn't sleep. Something in the mirror seemed to watch. At midnight, Clara woke up to a low sound. It sounded like heavy breathing. She sat up and saw, in the mirror, two people lying on the bed, but the expressions in the reflections were not theirs. The eyes of the reflections were open and smiling. She shook Daniel, who woke up irritated. When he looked at the mirror, everything seemed normal. Clara was trembling. He tried to reassure her, but she swore it wasn't her imagination. The mirror was showing something else. In the morning, Clara took a picture of the mirror with her phone. In the image, two bloodied bodies appeared on the bed. When she looked back at the mirror, nothing. Just a reflection. Was she going crazy? Daniel tried to go out for help, but the door wouldn't open. Neither would the window. The phone had no signal. They were trapped in the room. That's when the mirror cracked on its own, in the center, as if something was trying to come out from inside. They both recoiled in panic. Voices began to whisper from the other side of the glass. Clara tried to understand the words, but they were like muffled screams. The mirror started showing other people, distorted faces, silent screams. An old couple appeared in the reflection. They were dressed in 70s clothing and were being stabbed by a hooded figure. Blood splattered on the glass, but on the real wall, nothing happened. Was it a recording? A warning? Clara screamed. In the mirror, she and Daniel appeared to be dragged by black hands into the room. The expressions of pain and terror in the reflections were so real that Daniel vomited at the sight. This couldn't be an illusion. The clock in the room stopped. The mirror cracked completely and began to suck in the air like a vortex. The walls trembled. Screams came from the glass. Daniel was pulled first. His real body thrashed, but the reflection smiled. Clara tried to run, but her feet wouldn't respond. She felt invisible hands holding her. She screamed with all her might. The mirror began to glow red. Her image in the reflection was crying blood. Then silence. The room returned to normal. Everything was clean. The mirror, whole. No sign of Clara or Daniel. Just a neatly made bed, and the sound of breathing coming from the other side of the glass. Weeks later, the motel reopened. A new couple checked into room 7. They laughed at the old mirror and took a selfie. When they looked at the photo, two faces were watching them in the background. Clara and Daniel. Trapped. Forever. Asterisk, asterisk.